Hey, what is going on, everybody? So what I want to do is go through this Packers offense, sort of break down what I saw from that preseason game, some things that stood out to me from different players throughout this entire game. I already put out a video sort of breaking down my thoughts on Jordan Love. I probably did have some more thoughts on him from rewatching this game. This morning I was going through on NFL Game Pass, rewatching all the NFL plays earlier this morning, trying to, understand more so what was going down with the offensive line, different receivers, different running backs. So I sort of want to go through a few different things that did sort of stand out to me in this game. The number one thing I'd say for me is just how good Devin Funchess looked in this game. I think at least for me coming into this game, one of the things I was wondering is, how good is Devin Funchess? We haven't seen him play in the past 2 years, basically. I think he had 3 snaps back in 2019. And, with opting out last year for COVID, I had no idea how he was going to look, and I was wondering, is there a possibility that, he's really lost a step? I thought it was possible. But clearly from that game, if you guys watched that, he looked pretty solid there. He was pretty fast, pretty quick, made some pretty nice snags there, too, on that one where Jordan Love, threw it a little too far. He reaches out, grabs that ball. Devin Funchess looked good. He finished with 6 receptions for 70 yards overall. And now I was even wondering, before I made this video, I was thinking to myself, is it possible that Devin Funchess even pushes ahead of other guys like MVS? I mean, I know that MVS has that deep threat, that deep speed, which I don't think Devin Funchess really has. But maybe Devin Funchess pushes his way past Allen Lazard. Maybe not, but he looks really good. And I'm curious to see if he can sort of keep that up for the rest of these preseason games. And so definitely, I'd say that I still think he's going to make the roster. The other day when I put out a video sort of breaking down my prediction on the wide receiver roster spots, I predicted 7 wide receivers with Funchess and Malik Taylor ending it off just because of Malik Taylor's history when it comes to, the special teams. And after watching that preseason game, I probably have to say, I'm going to keep my prediction as it is because Devin Funchess looks really good. And then moving on to Malik Taylor, he was the second leading wide receiver for the Packers in this preseason game. When you look at their stats, he had 5 receptions for 50 yards, and he, according to PFF, he had some really good, a really good run blocking grade as well, which we know Matt LaFleur likes. Last year, he was always talking about, how good Allen Lazard was when it comes to run blocking, so something definitely valued by Matt LaFleur. And so if Malik Taylor is getting that done, he's, doing some things on special teams too. I'm sort of feeling that he is probably going to make this roster. And then moving on to Jordan Love, one thing that really stood out to me this morning rewatching the game is, how he handled himself when he was under pressure. Because there were more times than I realized during that game, watching it live. I didn't realize he was under pressure when he made some of those throws, like that one throw to Jay Sternberger that was 34 yards. John Runyon misses his block. The guy's right in his face, and he throws a beautiful ball there. Stays calm and collected in the pocket. There was another play where John Runyon again missed a block. The guy comes by him. It was the one where Jordan Love threw a little pass out to the left to A.J. Dillon for a few yards. But he really stayed, what I noticed is he stayed calm and collected when he was in that pocket. Even when it was breaking down, he didn't make any terribly bad decisions in those moments. So I think that's a positive for Jordan Love in his first game. And then sort of moving off of that, one thing that stood out to me was, John Runyon and Lucas Patrick, 2 guards, really did struggle in this game. There were multiple plays where John Runyon got beat, as I was talking to you earlier. There's another play, it was a run to Kylan Hill. John Runyon comes up, whoever was against him, I think it was a defensive lineman, shoves him, he flies back, basically tackles Kylan Hill in the backfield. So there are definitely a few bad plays for John Runyon as well as Lucas Patrick. And just taking a look at PFF's grades for them, they graded, let's see, where is he? They graded John Runyon as a 60.4 grade, Lucas Patrick as a 44.9 grade. So they gave them very bad grades, and I did see lots of those plays where they really struggled. And then I'd say one thing that was sort of surprising to me was how good Royce Newman looked in that game. I think he played mainly in the second half when Kurt Benkert was in there, but he really held his own there at that right guard position, and PFF gave him an 83.6 grade. Not only was that the best among offensive linemen, that was the best grade by the Packers' entire team in this game. So the fourth round draft pick the Packers picked in this 2021, right? What year is it? Yeah, 2021 NFL draft, Royce Newman, the 4th round guy. He really stood out yesterday. So I'm wondering if he can keep this up the rest of the preseason and outperform, Lucas Patrick, who has been playing that right guard spot. I don't see why the Packers wouldn't, make Royce Newman the starting guard. So that was something that definitely stood out and something that I think could be something to keep an eye on. And one other thing, too, sort of talking about Kylan Hill, I thought he had a okay game. If we take a look at his stats look really, really bad. He had 5 carries for -2 yards. So when you have negative yards, obviously not good. He did get lots of those rushes in the first half when the offensive line was really struggling, as I talked about already. John Runyon missing a block, flying into Kylan Hill. When he was running the ball, he basically had no running room. So partly I would say that's the offensive line's fault. Maybe a little bit on him, but mostly the offensive line because they really weren't opening many holes for Kylan Hill. He did have that nice little screen pass from Jordan Love where he ran in for like 23 yards for a TD. So he definitely looked good on that one, as well as, you know, he got some special teams work, kick returning as well. So I think he looked pretty solid. But one guy who really stood out to me, he only had a few plays, but it was at the end of the game. I was sitting there lying on my couch, a little bit sleepy. There was like 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Dexter Williams comes in, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, he just went crazy. He had 4 carries for 32 yards, but just like out of all 3 running backs, Patrick Taylor, Kylan Hill, and Dexter Williams is the guy who really stood out to me just from watching just how explosive he is, how quick he is, how powerful he is. It was just like a rocket out of like a rocket launcher. Yeah, flying through the hole, flying there, carrying some guys in a pile. He looks really good to me. It seemed to me, just because the Packers started off with Kylan Hill, that they seemed to prefer him, plus he is the guy taking kick return snaps. But if Dexter Williams can play as good as he did in those 4 snaps, he looked better than Kylan Hill and Patrick Taylor to me. Just from those 4 carries, he looked quicker, faster, maybe stronger than Kylan Hill, maybe not. Patrick Taylor's a little bit bigger, but he looks really, really good. So I want to see some more carries from him coming into this next game, because if he can keep that up, I mean, could he beat out Kylan Hill? Potentially. I think it's possible. So that was something that pretty much shocked me, just how fast he is. And then to finish it off, we have Amari Rogers. He didn't really do too much when it comes to just looking at his stats. He had, 3 receptions for 15 yards in that game. So not really too much to be excited about. A couple of those catches, I know 2 of them at least, were on little screens, and he did look, pretty good when he caught the ball. Moved it like 5-10 yards on each screen. And there were other plays that were called like RPOs, run pass options, where they just handed it off to the running back, but he was ready there on the outside to receive that little screen pass. So it seems like the Packers will probably do that, in the regular season, use him a lot when it comes to those little kind of screen plays, gadget plays, motions. Something we sort of expected, but we did see the Packers sort of utilize that a few different times last night when using Amari Rogers. But those are all the guys that stood out to me for the Packers offense in that preseason game. So if you want to see more Packers content, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.